All right, y'all, time for a weekly recap here. Had a pretty good week and learned some interesting things, and I'm excited to share those things that I'm learning and now studying. But before we get into that, just to let you know, Apex is having one of their killer sales. They're doing the 90% off all accounts. So that means you can get like a 25K all the way up to a 250K account for I think $19, which is just one of the best deals that there is. There is an activation fee on top of that if you pass your account. But what I like about Apex is if you don't pass the account, then you don't have to pay the activation fee, right? So like sometimes prop firms have a sale and it's like $100 for an account, which is a pretty okay deal. But then if you blow that account, you're out the 100. Whereas Apex at $19 an account, you only pay that extra amount if you pass the account. So, anyways, you can use my code BJT on checkout for that discount or the link below. But let's dive into the weekly recap. I'm pretty excited here. So ultimately up 4.5R on the week, which is pretty all right. I'll take it. So up this amount. We had no trades on Monday. I had a partial win on Tuesday, a break even on Wednesday, and a win on Thursday. Had some things kind of go awry in this, but I'll share that here in a second. So here on Tuesday was this trade right here. I longed on this candle and I was aiming. So here's my 3R TP, and I didn't get my 3R TP because I was shy by like a couple ticks or something. And then actually, I think the screenshot might be wrong. I think that this position tool should have been higher. I think that this, now that I'm looking at this and recalling the trade, this position tool, the take profit was just above this candle by a couple ticks. And then it came down, and I had been trailing my stop right above this fair value gap. And so I got tapped out for like, 1.2R or something like that, which is okay, I think. Because ultimately, with the way I'm currently managing my trailing stops, is once price goes above 1R, I go to break even. And on occasion, what'll happen is something like this, where it'll come back to my entry and tap me out at break even and run without me. So I'm okay with this. I wouldn't have wanted to have sat through this consolidation anyways. But ultimately, now that I'm remembering this trade, it was just a couple ticks shy of my full TP and then came back for my trailed stop. So that was this partial win on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, the break-even trade was this guy, little guy right here. I took this long off this IFVG and targeting 3R. I had trailed, put my stop to break even, but this time, based off of previous experience, I decided not to trail. I go between the two. Sometimes I start trailing, like if price hits 2R, I start trailing my stop loss to at least secure something. And it seems pretty split in terms of how many times it comes back and taps me out and then hits my full 3 RTP versus giving me a little bit of something. Whereas in this trade here, I got a little bit of something out of it at least. And in this trade, I got nothing out of it. So I don't know. I'm split on which way I'm going to manage that. In this case, the trade was offsides. I didn't get, I broke even on it. So that's okay. And then we have the win on Thursday, which was this trade right here. And in the case of this trade, just straight to TP, which is nice. It actually gave, I think, like 8R or something like that. But in all of these trades, they happen so quickly. Like this one right here happened so quickly. I didn't get to size appropriately. So I didn't risk the normal amount that I typically would risk. So from that regard, I risk less this week than I would typically per trade basis. But that's okay, actually, in my opinion. This week was FOMC week. It's not the week to be, even though I wanted to push up my risk to even higher than it had been. This FOMC week, in my experience, is not the week to push up your risk. I've wrecked myself doing that before. Same thing with NFP week. Just there's certain weeks where you don't push up your risk, in my opinion. So I didn't mind too much from that regard. But ultimately, I want to make sure to try to keep my risk relatively stable, because if I risk, 200 on one trade and then 100 on the next, and I lose the $200 trade and then I win the $100 trade, like you're losing more than you're making. So I want to try to keep that pretty stable. I was going to say something else about this, but I don't remember. So moving on, that was the week. So up 4.5R based off the risk I took on these three trades, based off my risk I had been taking, which was, you can see here, about 150 per trade. It was about 3.5R. So I'll take it. I'll take a 3.5R week. Absolutely. Now, one of the interesting things I want to show you that I've been tracking is I kind of look at my weeks like this. Now, I journal in Discord. I keep tons of screenshots. I document the price action. But this is something I want to show you is kind of the performance for the day. And I guess this title isn't quite right. It's why this started out as a why didn't I trade chart. And it kind of became more of a tracking of what did I do chart. And I'll just adjust that title right there. And we can see, so December 8th FOMC, I didn't take my model. And it was because I didn't trust it. So I noted that. Then, of course, win and then break even. And I made a couple quick notes. Missed 2R, missed 2R, and I was offsides on that break even trade. A winner. And I could even annotate here, it was partial risk for these two. Partial risk and then 2R. And what I like doing about this, so then Friday, I didn't take my model. And this chart, I've basically used to kind of be able to, at a glance, look at the days and see what happened, and then come up with themes for the week. Did I do well? Did I not do well? And in this case here, I ended up adding in all of these columns, which was an idea that I came across this week, which is thinking about the missed opportunities and the trades we don't take. Because obviously if we take a trade and we take a loss, it's minus 1R, right? But if we take a trade and we take a win, it's plus 2R, plus 3R, whatever your risk to reward typically is. In my case, it's 3 to 1. So you're actually losing more by hesitating, not taking a trade, than by just taking it and taking the loss. That's the theory. Now I'm testing out that theory before I maybe put that into practice. And I'm getting some interesting information so far. So in the case of Friday, when I started tracking this real time here, is there were 2 valid losing trades that I didn't take. And I gave the time, long, and the reason. It wanted to go one level deeper. This trade was just offsides. And time-wise, they're actually out of order, but whatever. And then the valid winning trades that I didn't take. So these were 4 winning trades I could have taken, but for whatever, I denote the reason. It was against my bias, and there was a massive rejection block. This trade was consolidating, and the previous trade had been a loss just like a few minutes earlier. This trade, it was lunch macro. Lunchtime, I don't trade. This trade, it was just not clean, and it was outside of macro. So in looking at this, I didn't take a trade. Was that the right decision? Did I miss the opportunity? And then I can say, looking back at this, the only with bias trade that was clean I took on demo, which was an expense. All other setups were not convincing, but still missed 4 opportunities. So if I'm grading myself on my performance for that day, the green was just meaning I did good. I gave myself an A+ on performance, at least for the moment. At some point, I may come back and say, wow, I'm missing a lot of trades and I'm making up a lot of reasons why I'm not taking them. And I need to readjust my rules. So that's why I'm tracking this. However, that said, I want to show you something else in my back testing. Let's see here. So in my back testing, I'm back testing the entire year of 2025 from front to start, and in some of my other videos. And one of the things I'm tracking is trades I hesitate on, which I would classify as all of these trades right here. I hesitated and didn't act, and I give my reason. It was against my bias, and there was a strong rejection block that convinced me it wasn't going to continue on and I shouldn't enter. So that's why I was hesitant to enter this trade. Now, it ended up being a lost opportunity. I could have taken it and won. But in my back testing, I started tracking this this week in my back testing because I was curious about this. And then I only on Friday decided to start tracking it in my live trading. But so far, I'm looking at hesitant trades that I skip. And I'm looking, are they a winner? Are they break even, or are they a loser, basically? And so here's the winning trades. Here's the break even trades. And here's the losses. And I give the reason. So, for this winner here, it was all-time highs. It had an IFVG. but it feels offsides, but not, but what the hesitancy wasn't bad, but it was a winner. Now, all these other ones, like there's reasons why I was against my bias and shorting all-time highs. This loser here, so the 1 is a loss, the 0 is a win, and I just do that 1s and 0s so it can calculate a percentage for me and say that this is a, you know, of these trades I skipped, only 27% were winners. So percentage of winners right there. And so then this here tells me, so I'm getting conflicting data at this point, obviously. And not that this is a ton of data yet, but over time, this will add up to a lot of data. This data here is telling me I could have taken about any other trade, any trades today and been positive. But in my back testing over the course of however much, I think this was a 2 weeks maybe of back testing, pretty much every trade I was hesitant on was a loser, and therefore if I hesitate, it is not worth taking the trade. I am likely correct that it's going to be a loser. So I hope that makes sense. I hope I described that well. It's something I'm super interested, an idea I'm super interested in, because it makes sense logically. It's like if you're 3-1, you can lose 3 trades, have 1 winner, and still be at break even. Like, you know, it makes sense that you want to maybe be slightly more liberal in your trading than conservative. It makes sense theoretically and logically, but I want to find the data to prove it. And I'm currently, I mean, this is a little bit, 1 day is not very much, but as this starts to build up over the course of a few weeks and months, I think that this is going to help clarify for me if I'm too conservative of a trader, or if the way I currently trade, which is pretty selectively, and even this is a little more like if we looked at my back testing, we can see I typically trade like half the month. So anyways, that's a long-winded rant about what I'm starting to do, tracking more things I'm tracking. I track a lot of stuff. I don't show tons of it. Maybe if you're interested, let me know. I can show you all the data that I track. I'm super interested in the data, like tracking the frequency of the profiles that occur, London protraction, delayed protraction, those daily profiles. I track those kind of things. I track the lunch raids that happen, whether the PM was a reversal or a continuation of the AM. So I don't know. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, leave me a comment below. Otherwise, I'll just wrap up this video. So it's a wrap for the week. I'll take it considering we're in December. I know some people are saying the price action is subpar. I agree. The 4 hours been consolidating. It's not been easy. I've just been patient and picky. So that said, I will be live trading starting the rest of this week, the 15th through the 19th, and then taking the holidays off. But if you want to join me, come pop in at 9:30 Eastern time. I'll be there live.